Perfect. Well, my name's Michael Nutbrock. I'm with WFG in Lake Oswego. We're happy to provide this class to you this morning. So many of you might be familiar with WFG and what we have to offer, but some of you may not have had the opportunity to use WFG in the past, and we'd love the opportunity to work with you in the future just to help grow your business. I've been able to help some of our agents grow their business in this changing market. We have a couple of tools that have helped agents get additional listings and grow their business by one or two listings. So if you're interested in knowing what it is that we've been doing, reach out to me and I'd be happy to share some of those programs that we have available. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about AI with Aaron Steele. So I'm going to pass it over to him so that he can get us into this class. And I look forward to reaching out and meeting some of you that are on this class today at a later time.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate everyone, taking some time out of their day to jump on with us here. This has actually been, it's been one of my favorite presentations. And the reason is, and I actually literally just did it again this morning. Every time I give this presentation, I have to adjust or adapt or change a couple of things. And it's because this is such a fast moving target to try to stay kind of ahead of, that it's always something new and something fresh. So for you, what I'm hoping to do as we kind of dive in here is just kind of give you an overarching view of what AI is, what it's doing to our real estate industry, and then show you a lot of practical applications. I want to spend more time on that as we move kind of later on into it. So with that, I am going to go ahead and dive on in. So anybody that doesn't know me, this is me. I'm Aaron Stelle. I am with WFG, but I'm in a different capacity than probably most of you use on a daily basis. I don't have anything to do with title and escrow. What I do is I spend my time focusing on marketing and technology for real estate. So that's where I'm going to put my energy to make sure that whenever anything's going on like this here with AI, that we always are on the forefront and we're always going to be able to bring you value on these different topics. The nice part is I'm with a group of other people that do similar functions to me all across the country. So a lot of times when we're creating these programs or we're creating these classes, it's done through a lot of collaboration of seeing things that are working in other markets. So maybe California or Seattle or Arizona or Texas, or just go down the list. And so we really do get to focus in on things that are most important and that are being successful in the market. And that's where we really decide on what topics to then bring back to you, our WFG clients. So as we dive into this particular class, the things I really want to do is I want to kind of show you, what's the good, the bad, and there's some scary parts coming out. What are the practical applications? Like, what can you do today to start bringing this into your business? And then the big thing is we hear a lot of stuff like this is going to, kill our industry, or it's going to kill this job or that job. And what we're really seeing is it's not going to do any of those things. It's going to enhance them and actually make you more important than ever. And so I really do want to focus on the benefits of it, while still giving the cautionary tales of things that they are still in the process of figuring out kind of as an industry, as an entity, if we're talking about OpenAI and Google, and then kind of on a bigger, grander scale. So the reason we called this, the technological or the revolution, the AI revolution, is because what we've really seen inside of the real estate space is we've seen three major revolutions that have completely changed the way that real estate is done. The first one, really simple. Once everything went online and the World Wide Web came out, it was no longer about listing books. It was no longer about agents keeping the data in their offices and consumers having to come to them in order to find it. Once the internet came out, suddenly the information was everywhere. The consumer was getting more educated than ever. They were now finding their own properties. So you actually finding the property for them was less important, but the process became more and more important. So it was not about the data. It was about how do you analyze that data, and then how do you then use that in order to make a good, solid, informed decision. So that moves to the next revolution, which is the smartphone. So instead of having to be tethered to a desk, working during, let's say, 8 to 5, not being able to, send contracts, not being able to send emails, not being able to, look at properties on your phone while you're out of the office. Suddenly now your office is in the palm of your hand and it's everywhere you go. So now, unfortunately for you as the agent, now you're basically on call 24/7. But your clients are also available to you 24/7 too, which completely changed the life cycle of what communication expectations are. So instead of being something where, I'll get back to you in, 3 to 4 hours, or maybe even by end of day, now it's, I expect you to be back to me inside of 15 minutes or maybe an hour at the most, or whatever that may be, because you now have everything you need to conduct your business in the palm of your hand. Now, the third one that we look at is social media. If we're talking about database management, staying in front of your clients, know what's going on with your people, and being able to both push your message out, but then also understand what's your client. So being able to use it as a listening device or a pulling device when it comes to marketing. Social media changed everything. No longer is it the day of having to just send out a bunch of letters and postcards and hoping that people find those. It's not about, sending out a bunch of emails and then hoping that those resonate with people or that they might reply back. Now you can listen in and know what's going on in your clients' lives. You can push out your messaging in regards to, your different houses or the things that you're doing inside of your business, and get interaction. So it's real time. And so what this really did is it gave you a portal into hundreds or thousands of people's worlds that you can now keep in touch with basically on your smartphone, on your computer, and it made it to where now it is much, much easier to keep in touch with a lot of people in a very small period of time. So those are the three we've really felt up to this point. But the fourth revolution is going to be AI. And with AI, this isn't something where, I say this lightly. There's a lot of things that come out and they're like, oh, this is going to change the world. And for the most part, that's a lot of times, usually it's a little bit of puffery, or it's something where, that company's saying that because they want it to change the world. Artificial intelligence actually is changing the world, and the major scientists, that are out there working on this, are literally putting it on par with things like the invention of fire, the invention of indoor plumbing. Like, it is going to have that large of an impact on our society and how it works. And so I want to walk you through why it's different than just a chat bot from before, and then also show you why this can be something that's really cool, or this can be something that's really scary. So, you know, this is the number that really stood out to me. And I keep seeing varying degrees of what this number is, but what they're saying is 80% of US jobs are at risk or will be impacted by AI. So it's not that they're going to go away, it's that now all of a sudden AI is going to be something you have to use in order to complete your job. So think about this on the same level of what the internet was. Remember doing your job where everything was, was paper, you weren't allowed to, or you couldn't go out and search for information, you couldn't go out and verify facts or data or figures. Now all of that stuff is just there 24/7. So that's the type of impact AI is going to have on our jobs. And I'm going to show you kind of examples of how that will actually work. So a lot of times the question I get is like, okay, so tell me exactly what AI is. And so we went to ChatGPT, which is the number one AI kind of name out there anyway. They're the big daddy in this space. Google Bard is the other one, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But they came back and they basically said it's a simulation of human intelligence that allows computers to actually think like humans. And you can read the rest of it, but the short version of how this is different is, unlike previous, say, chatbots, where you would go in, think about like a car dealership, or the real estate chatbots that were out, where it would say, what are you looking to do? Buy, sell, both, rent, whatever that may be, or on a car, it'd be the same, buy, trade, sell, whatever you want to do. Then it would have this tree of pre-recorded, pre-written, pre-built out tasks or answers that it could then spit out. The difference is, with AI, it actually understands the question like what you or I would. And based on what that question is, it can come back with an answer for you that is not something that's already predetermined or canned. It can understand the tone of your voice, it can understand what you're trying to figure out, and it can give you an answer to very complex questions. And that's why this is very different. And I will show you an example of that in a little bit. But if that's a little bit too technical, let's go with the third grade generation or third grade definition that was also written by ChatGPT, because all you have to do is change the prompt to say, okay, give me this in the voice of a third grader. So artificial intelligence is like a computer brain that can learn and do things normally like normal people do, play games, understand what you're saying, and make suggestions. It's like having a smart robot helper. So that is the super simple version of what AI is. And I think the key to this is it actually understands the question. And I don't want to beat that, too much into this presentation, but it's not something where it is taking preconceived notions. It is grabbing information, understanding information, and then replying back. So use cases, what are people using it for? In the real estate space, writing copy is the huge one. It's also being used to create images. It's being used to write code. I believe last I heard, it was a level 3 coder for Google. So for example, Google's actually getting rid of some of its coding engineers, letting AI write the base stuff and then bringing in their really high level people to then fix it. So one thing to note with all this, and I'm going to kind of beat this into your head a little bit too, is that for the most part, AI is going to get you 80, 85% of the way to where you need to be. It's not going to be a finished cases. You're going to have to do something once it actually kicks out the results, you're going to need to go through and do some editing. So just like that with this code, it will spit it all out. It's most of the way there. Then they go through and they fix the errors, and that's where the human part comes in. But it does save you all of that time on the build out. It's also passed the bar, so it can give legal advice. They're using it as a stock trading algorithms to where it can figure out different triggers in order to see what's going to happen next. And of course, the first people to get on this were the kids, and the students were using this to cheat, which is completely upending the entire educational system because teachers and administrators and everybody is trying to figure out, okay, this exists. How do we either build this into our curriculum, or do we have to try to figure out ways to have kids not using this but be able to detect it? And they're doing a little bit of both right now, and that's something where the technology is kind of it's rapidly moving forward, and it's hard for the school boards and the school districts and things to keep up. So this is going to be something that's going to be an ongoing problem as we move forward. If we're talking about ChatGPT in general, I'm kind of whip through these numbers. The reason it's relevant is, this took off about Christmas time last year. So we're not even a year in. It took less than 2 months to get up to 100 million users. I mean, it just flew, and that's faster than any other product that went out there. I will say there was the flash in the pan threads that jumped out, but that wasn't really a true new product. That was just a bolt on to Instagram, and it was another Meta product. Total traffic, you can see how quickly it went from 152 million visits all the way up to 1.8 in April. I do need to even update this slide because it's going so quick. I do know it's plateaued down a little bit, but it is still just a massive amount of growth month over month over month, which then puts it, right up there. It's not there yet in regards to the number of hits that like Google or YouTube gets, but it's catching up very, very quickly. And so it's one of those things where it's going to be one of the top, 3 to 5 sites on the entire internet inside of less than a year, which is a pretty incredible feat. And another reason why, outside of the $10 billion that Microsoft put into it, that this is going to continue to be relevant and continue to be used. So, one of the big points I do want to touch on as we kind of go through this presentation is, while I'm going to talk a lot about ChatGPT, and that's kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the room, there are literally thousands of tools out there, and there are new ones being added every single day. So if you notice, there was 2,000 new ones added just in the month of March, and there's still that pace, and I'm going to show you where you can kind of keep up with this stuff. There is still this kind of pace going on, and it's everything from copywriting to like medical imaging. There was a lady that came out, and this has actually been several months ago, where they were able to go through, and with AI, they were able to figure out, based on all of these different markers, looking at her medical records and looking at past history of other clients, that she was going to get cancer a year before she actually had cancer. So you think about those type of applications, this is something that is going to have a lasting impact on all of society, not just the real estate world. So, as we kind of think about how big it can be, you know, Microsoft and Alphabet is who owns Google, are the two companies with the most amount of money into this, and they're kind of in the arms race to build all of this stuff out. And so when you have two companies that are that big and have that much invested in this, they are going to keep pushing this forward. And so that's the other reason that, once again, this is not a flash in the pan. This is actually going to advance very quickly, and it's going to be something to keep up on. And it is. It literally every day, every week, I find something new with AI where they're going in and changing something. And I will even show you examples of stuff that's coming out this week. Um, Google Bard is the main competitor, so I played with both. I will say I use ChatGPT more than Bard, but Bard can do some pretty incredible things too. It's a lot of it's just kind of like your preference. They're both super useful. Bard was not as good early on, but I feel like they've done a lot of catching up. But they can even do things like translate all different languages. I actually had an example of this. I was, of all things, selling a motorcycle over the summer, and I had a guy message me who he was Spanish speaking and didn't really speak any English. I didn't speak any Spanish. We were able to have an entire conversation back and forth just using ChatGPT, saying, translate this to English. I would come up with my response, say, translate this to Spanish, and send it back to him. We probably had 80 messages back and forth. We met, we got it all done. And that's literally just using ChatGPT as a translator, which is a really cool way to do it. One side note is, if you guys do want to get into in another kind of class, dive into prompting and hands-on and actually do a workshop with it, get with Michael. We can even do that for you also. So the big thing that came out is ChatGPT 4 launched earlier this year. And the reason I bring this up, I said, okay, what is it? And why was there kind of this like outcry about it? And basically what it means is GPT-4 can understand far more complex questions, get far deeper into what you're trying to accomplish, and it'll get you more accurate responses, which sounds great. However, the issue is it's learning super, super fast. And that's where some of these social scientists and data scientists and even these tech leaders are like, okay, it's moving too fast now and its brain is getting too big. We need to do something about that. So that's where we dive into, okay, what is the bad of AI? Like, what bad things could come out of this? Well, as they started going through, they started to write an open letter. They wrote an open letter, and it was actually a academic out of Canada that wrote it, but it was signed by literally the top tech minds really all across the world. So everyone from, like, you get into, um, you know, head of Apple, head of Microsoft, you get into Elon Musk, I mean, just go down the list, regardless of your feelings on these people. They all agreed that, hey, we need to pause this for a little bit, because right now it's still making some mistakes. So you don't know if you're getting the right answer out. The scary thing for me is it says hallucinates incorrect information. So like it literally thinks it's telling you something that's right, and you're basing an opinion on that, or you're basing some sort of, like, it could even be something where it's like your job or whatever else that's just wrong. It also, this is super important inside the real estate space. It doesn't necessarily understand things like equal housing opportunity. So it can go through and betray, and it can get into societal biases. And it can say either hateful or potentially harmful things. I haven't seen a lot of this, especially lately, but from like a compliance standpoint, this is definitely something that you're going to want to pay attention to. Do not just copy something that it wrote and paste it into, a piece of marketing, or paste it into an email. Make sure you go through and read it, edit it, change it, and make sure that it is compliant with things like equal housing opportunity, especially in our world of real estate. So they kept going on. They basically said, there could be, at the worst possible scenario, an existential threat to society or even humanity. So what they want to do is, the point of this letter, if you're looking at the limitations over here on the right, is they're saying, like, okay, if it's going to create bias or harmful content, if it doesn't really understand, the world before 2021, we need to slow down and create some framework on how we're going to build this out in order to make sure that it is a useful tool without creating harm or problems for either the users or other people in society, or society in general. So Sam Altman, who's the CEO for OpenAI, odd little fact about him, he actually doesn't get paid based on usage or anything like that for OpenAI. He's trying to stay where he has no financial ties to its success, um, because he wants to be able to be a neutral third party, or a neutral player in this space. So it's really interesting. They're leading the charge trying to get governmental bodies, so the US, the EU, to regulate this stuff in order to make sure that AI does become something that is a safe tool for everyone and doesn't get too smart, too fast and start creating issues. So, the thing that can come up is if they don't build out this framework, the scary can happen. And with scary, there's the cybersecurity firm Darktrace basically said that since ChatGPT came out, they're seeing more sophisticated scams. They're conning employees. People are getting better at hacking into businesses. You think about the emails you get that are, they come and traditionally they have some like, poor grammar or poor English, or the formatting's bad or something along those lines, which they've actually said there's a reason they do that, because they want basically to find people that aren't paying attention. And if you miss that stuff, then you're not going to pay attention to the rest of it, where you'll probably give them money. However, imagine being able to type in something like, act as a commercial or corporate banker in a compelling tone to get someone to give up their username and password with an image generated by AI that looks just like a Wells Fargo sign on page. Plug that into my email system, convert this to 14 most popular languages on the planet, and send it out to everyone in this database that I just downloaded off the dark web. So I know I just said a lot of rambling things, but basically what that would do is inside of 30 seconds, it would spit out an email, it would create an image to go with it, it would put it into an email system, it would then send it out to this, list of email addresses I bought, and it would be in all of the native languages based on where I was sending it. And it could do that all inside of like 30 seconds, which that's kind of the scary part for me, is like anytime there's going to be a good use for something, there are going to be people out there that are trying to find the ways to leverage it in order to cause harm. So the good news is you have like good guys with their AI fighting the bad guys with their AI. So it's kind of like robots fighting each other. But fraud, and in our world, wire fraud, this is where continue to have your conversations with your clients about wire fraud. Using things like AI makes it easier and easier to hack into email systems. It makes it easier to write emails. It makes it easier to monitor emails. So it is something where wire fraud in the real estate space is very much something that's going to become increasingly prevalent, and you need to be on guard all the time. If you need more questions about that, we actually do have a video you can even send your clients. Michael can get that over to you, that kind of warns them on the front end. And I would send it to every single person at the front end of a transaction. The other thing is, most companies, I believe, adhere to this, but WFG especially, we never email wire instructions. So if you get them via email, it's probably a hacker trying to send those over. Um, if you want to go to the next level of where this gets really scary, is 11 Labs is a company that it can hear 45 seconds of your voice, and then I can type in anything I want and it will come out in your voice. So I could basically clone you using your voice, and I can say in an excited tone, in a scared tone, in a, whatever you want that to be, in a happy tone. It will come out using your voice. And so where people are using this is something like, you know, cloning, and this is a real world thing that happened in April. Is there was a daughter that was on a ski trip. The mom was at home in Arizona. She gets a call from these scammers saying, hey, we have your girl, give us $1 million or she's going to be killed, or I will, you'll never see her again. So, of course, like all mothers, she starts freaking out. Luckily, she did call 911. She did call like her other friends' parents, because it was a group of kids that was all on the ski trip. Was able to find out that it was a scam, but it took several hours. And she was completely convinced that it was her daughter that was on the phone with her saying, hey, mom, they've got me. I need you to send these people money immediately. So you think of the ways that people could use, something of this level. And it's even getting into copywriting for musicians, copywriting for actors. But it's a fun, cool technology, but there are scary ways that people could then use it. And then, of course, you get stuff like this where Sam Altman says, oh, well, if they don't start creating some pitfalls or some safety guards on this, there's actually an extinction risk. And it literally could go through and it should be put on the same priority as societal scale risks such as pandemics or nuclear war, as in it could wipe off all biological life on Earth or wipe out all biological life on Earth. So they've now created the Center for AI Safety, which once again, kind of like the open letter, it's got all of the top minds in not just this space, but basically most technology space. And they are all working in order to make this something that is safe for us. And they've done a lot already, but they're continuing to try to make sure that the technology does not outpace the safeguards. Okay, I know that I've kind of dove in. We're about halfway through, and I spent all this time scaring you and telling you the bads. But I promise there is a ton of good that comes out of it too. So let's focus on all of the really cool things that it's going to do for you in order to help your business. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to give you time back. So we're going to show you exactly how that can happen, but it's going to take things that are not your priorities or your strengths, and it will be able to do those for you. And then, if you're right brained, it will do the right brain activities. If you're left brain, it will do the left brain activities and really let you focus on your strengths and let AI take care of your weaknesses. And we're seeing this all the time right now. And what that really does is it means, okay, if I'm able to focus on the things I'm good at and basically put out something that I don't want to do to AI versus having to hire somebody, now the business becomes very, very scalable, which at the end of the day, what our goal is this will allow us to spend more and more times belly to belly, face to face, out with our clients. Because one thing that AI will never be able to reproduce is this emotional relationship that you build that is going to get you FaceTime, and it's going to make those clients be loyal and come back over and over and over again. It can be a communication device, but it is not going to be able to replace you in the relationship. Okay, so all of this theory or all of these different things are cool and important. They set up a foundation. But let's show you exactly how we can use AI in order to build out a real estate business. So we went out, we were trying to find somebody that was interested in becoming a real estate broker. And after putting out a bunch of feelers, we figured out Snoop Dogg wanted to become a realtor. He's like, this whole rapping thing, this hanging out with Martha Stewart thing, it's pretty cool, but I want to send or sell houses and I want to get out into this space that I think is a pretty cool way to interact with clients, help society, make a little money, and build out a brand. So the first thing we did at Snoop is we're like, all right, Snoop, we'll help you out with this. We're going to use AI. But what we need to do is start with the logo. And we're thinking about, Snoop D-O-double-G, like what is it that would represent Snoop, but still feel like, a real estate business or a real estate logo. So we go to Taylor Brands, which is a company where you can throw in the name of the business. It lets you go through and kind of pick out some different styles, and then it'll build out different variations of logos to get you a logo almost instantly. So this is what Taylor Brands came back with. So it's Doghouse Realty, and since it's Snoop D-O-double-G, it's D-O-G-G House Realty. You've got the little house that looks like a doghouse. It's got the bone. We're like, all right. Snoop looks at it. He's like, hey, this is pretty cool. I like the doghouse logo. And he's like, let's take this. Let's figure out what we can do with this. So this was all built out by AI. He said, well, let's throw it on some marketing assets. We need some business cards. We need some shirts. We need to be on the website. Like, what's this going to look like, across all these platforms? And so here we go. We've got all of our different places. Let's build out some social templates. Okay, this is what your templates are going to look like when you put them on, stories or Instagram or your posts on Facebook. Like, let's just start walking through exactly how this logo will translate to all of these other places. And he's like, all right, well, that's pretty cool. I like the use case in that. But, what are we going to do in regards to going through and communicating our brand to the world? So the first thing we did is we threw it into ChatGPT and we said, in the voice of Snoop Dogg, create a tagline for his real estate business. And so ChatGPT comes through and says, all right, for Snoop Dogg, it's Doghouse Realty, get your home or get your paws on the home of your dreams. And the one thing I want you all to do is, as you're reading these in your brain, read it like it's Snoop Dogg, because this has a Snoop Dogg tone, and you'll really see that as we're moving forward. And Snoop's like, okay, I love it. I love the whole, I love the tagline, but we need to get a little deeper into, what we're trying to accomplish. We're like, all right, well, let's jump into the next step here and get you a mission statement. Like, what are you all about? And so it's to our goal is to provide a safe and comfortable home for every pup out there knows it brings in the pup. But then notice it doesn't say talking or selling. So like Snoop Dogg doesn't say talking and selling. He says talking and selling. So if you read this in the voice of Snoop Dogg, it's creating a mission statement that is 100% set up to Snoop Dogg, and it's built out in a tone of voice and in a way that it does represent him. And he's like, all right, well, I love the mission statement, I love the tagline, but we got to figure out, who we are as a company. So let's throw out some core values. And we're like, all right, let's build those out. So we throw that into ChatGPT, and sure enough, here are core values. So, once again, if you bring out your best Snoop Dogg voice, you're keeping it real, staying fresh, showing love, and giving back. And I don't have a great Snoop Dogg voice, unfortunately. I wish I could impersonate him for you right now. That doesn't happen. But if you read it, and I can see it in my head on what that looks like, you know, this is the way that Snoop Dogg would even speak. And this was all written in a matter of just a few minutes inside of ChatGPT. So we see real world applications where agents all the time are taking old bios and freshening them up, taking resumes and turning them into about pages, taking resumes and turning them into core values or mission statements. And it can give you all of this information and rewrite it based on the prompts. And literally, we could sit down for an hour and have an entire new brand pack built out for you. And I don't know how many of you have done this in the past, but when we used to do it like brand consultancies and we would actually build out entire branding packages, this would take weeks, if not months, in order to build out. And now we can do it in a matter of, hours, maybe days if you want to think on something, but the content is built out in a very, very short period of time. So then we want to take all of this information. We say, okay, well, that's great that we have all this message that we want to build out, or that we're now behind. But like, how do we get this out to our clients? How do we get this out to the world in order to get people to open act, or to open up and interact with us? So we go to addcreative.ai and throw in a bunch of information, and it's like, okay, well, here are some ad examples we can use to brand Doghouse Realty using Facebook, using Instagram, using these different platforms. It'll even give you your conversion score of how many people you think or they think will be clicking on it. So it's out of on their rating, it's a 99 out of 100 because you're making moves. It's going to make your experience perfect. And it all ties together with the brand and gives you this look and feel that will basically translate to digital. It'll translate to print. If we're looking at, oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button there. If you're looking at different ways that you can get out in front of people, it will tell you all of the different, and it will adjust based on the platforms you're going to put this on. So as we walk through this, between what we were doing previously in regards to having to build all this stuff out manually, you can now build this stuff out in a matter of just either minutes or potentially up to an hour, have your entire marketing campaign out or built. And all you have to do is take the time to edit it to make sure that it's compliant, change words to make sure that it does represent you. The prompting part does get really important. It will do what you tell it or what you ask it to do. So figuring out how to ask the right questions becomes increasingly important when we're talking about this stuff. But you saw how quickly we were able to build out an entire brand campaign from nothing all the way to ad examples, just using a couple of AI tools and spending about an hour. All right. So what are some other examples that are going to be used in our world right now? And there's quite a few of them, but I want to just hit on a couple of the highlights. I mentioned early on that one of the main difference between things like GPT-4 and previous chatbots or things like that were it actually understood the question. It wasn't just spitting out canned answers. So think about if you go to, and this is one of my least favorite things in the entire world, Think about if you go to Facebook and you're like, you're having an issue that's not a simple, like, I can't log in. And it runs you through all of these knowledge bases trying to find an answer. It's the frequently asked questions. You type it in, it gives you an answer, and you're like, okay, that's not the answer I'm looking for. That doesn't help. And you go through pages and pages and pages and searches and searches and searches, and you still don't get your answer. Well, here's an example of what ChatGPT can do. So I went through and I was just playing with this, and I was like, all right, I want to see what they can do in regards to coding me a website that will create a single landing page that is orange because I love the color orange. Go Beavs. It will fill out a form to get a home value, and it will send all the responses that people type in to my email. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm going to type this in. Well, what I found out is, and I didn't know this at the time, but I love this example, is Squarespace does not actually support custom HTML, CSS, JavaScript, go down the thing. Basically, you can't do it. So ChatGPT knows Squarespace can't do this, but they're like, but we understand what you're trying to accomplish. So while it's not exactly what you were looking for, let me give you the step-by-step guide on how to do what you're trying to accomplish. So, step 1 through 9, go to Squarespace, go to Pages, hit the plus, and it literally goes step by step by step on where you click, what you say, what you have to put in there. And then, because I want it to be orange, here is the background color that you, or the code in order to get the background color orange in there. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And this is, step by step, getting me there. It then further on goes to say, okay, now that you've hit save, in order to really make this work, you have to put all of this code in here. So it wrote all of this code almost immediately and then gave me this. So not only does it give me the step-by-step guide, it's even giving me the workaround to go to advanced and plug this code in, which, by the way, I'm not a coder. I have no idea what any of this stuff means. It does, though. So it gives me all the code that I need. It then runs through and says, okay, not only are you going to do that, you're going to need to go to a service like Zapier, Interomat, Tably, something like that in order to get a webhook, save it, make your page live. Oh, and by the way, depending on what service you chose, one of these services, you're going to need to make sure your desired emails use the URL provided in the service in the script. So you're going to have to get some information from them too. So as you think about that, I asked it to do something, build me out a page that's orange, sends them to this email address. It didn't say Squarespace doesn't do that. It doesn't say, other services like X, Y, and Z can do that for you, but Squarespace is not the right place. It says, okay, I understand what you're asking. It can't actually do that, but let me show you a 14-step workaround with all of the code and all of the things you need to plug in order to make that happen. And it spit that entire thing out inside of about 45 seconds. On the other hand, if I would have gone to Google and said something along the lines of create a page in Square, or how do I create a custom site in Squarespace in order to make or to get a, landing page that says, what's my home worth? It would say either it doesn't happen, or it would give me all of these other little things. I'd probably be researching or watching YouTube videos for several hours in order to find out. At the end of the day, they would say does not work. However, I go to ChatGPT, it gives me all this information. Now I can find a way to actually get the answer I'm looking for, even if that answer is technically they don't do it, but here's a workaround. So some other use cases is, I know we're constantly talking to agents out there who say, I don't like being on video. Like, I know I need to be in the video space, but seeing my face, hearing my voice isn't something I traditionally appreciate. There's a program out here called Synthesia, and where I really see value in this from a real estate standpoint is if you're trying to, build out, say, process videos or frequently asked questions videos, or, even give market updates or something like that, that you don't want to be a part of. Basically, what you do is you go to this site, you type in the script that you want to be basically read or recorded, go to the right, pick your AI model. So there's this person you see in front of you here is not a real person. That's 100% an AI kind of bot, robot, whatever you want to call them. And you type in the script, You can go through and do some other editing, and they will read it out for you, and it will look like a real person just read out whatever it is that you talked or put in there. So once again, if you're talking about the different steps in a real estate transaction, you're trying to give a quick update on what's going on in the market. While I personally still believe it's best if you are the person doing that, this is a way for you to get into the video space without actually having to be on camera. So it's just another cool thing where it can be somewhat relatable. It will have people. I will say it's pretty darn close to feeling like a real person when they're talking. It's not 100% there yet, but it is getting pretty darn close. So that's one of the cool little tools, and we're going to see a lot of different iterations of that moving forward. Um, One thing that I saw, so going back to my Facebook example, where you find something that's broken, they're now able to take a full 5 to 40 minute sales or customer service call, and it literally sounds like I listened to this call, and it sounds like you're talking to a human. And so, where I really hope this takes off first is think of all those times you've been on hold for 30 to 40 minutes. You get on with a customer service rep, they go through their couple of canned answers, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, I'm going to have to transfer you to this department or transfer you to this part," and it can take you hours to get your answer. Imagine a place like your bank, or imagine a place like, an airline or a car rental company, or, think of some of those places. Heck, government would be fantastic. Um, One of those ones where you just, every time you have to be on hold, it just drives you crazy. Well, with this, AI can literally have, however many number of seats they can whip through. AI is going to be able to find answers even faster than people are, especially for most kind of common questions. But if it's not a common question and you're looking for a one-off answer, AI will understand your question and be able to answer it and take over entire customer service departments that currently are having to be either shipped overseas, or they don't have the money, so they're kind of running on skeleton crews or whatever that may be. AI can take that over, and that's actually one application where I really hope that takes off, because I would love to have a 5-minute call, not a 45-minute call. They're also, oh, I do see a question coming in. So how do companies integrate this into their business? It's got, so yes, it like at this point in time, things like that would be very expensive. ChatGPT, a lot of these have freemium models where it's like you get a certain level for free, and then you have to pay if you want kind of the advanced level. But if you're talking about AI customer service reps, that is going to be expensive. But if you're talking about somebody like a Wells Fargo, or I know I've got GM on the screen here, somebody like that, it will be a lot cheaper to buy seats of AI technology than it will be to have a person that sits there and answers phones. And especially if you're trying to do 24 hours, 365, it'll be still expensive, yes, but it'll be cheaper than hiring a person. So I guess that's kind of my short answer on that. So GM's actually looking at potentially integrating ChatGPT into their video or their vehicles. So my first thought was like, well, why would you need that? But if you've ever used CarPlay, like there's times where CarPlay is absolutely fantastic, and there's other times where it is absolutely terrible. You plug your phone in and you do a talk to text, or you do something, and then all of a sudden it changes the music station, or you're trying to use the mapping feature, and then that doesn't that works fine, but then all of a sudden you want to like change the station, so you have to flip to something else. I mean, there's all of these different things where it's getting better, but it's still fairly clunky. So imagine if you could just get in your car and say, okay, okay, car, uh, take me home, but first stop by the school to pick up the kids, order a pizza from Domino's that should be ready in 15 minutes, route me the fastest way to get to both. Also, change the station to whatever, my favorite preset number 3, and send a text message to so and so to tell them on my way, and give a call to so and so I can talk to them about what I'm doing right now. And it could do all of those things, and your computer would basically inside of your car would make all those happen simultaneously, and it would just be one interactive format versus all of the different pieces right now that are trying to talk that don't necessarily always work together. And there's more and more integrations happening all the time with things like ChatGPT. The other thing that they're able to do is they're looking at stuff like, okay, bring in tone of voice. So they're going through and trying to decode what it is that the Fed is going to do based on the words, the tonality, and everything else that is coming out both in their statements, both in their articles and their papers they're publishing, and then they're trying to predict what's going to happen moving forward. So where I see this being something that could be potentially really cool is, imagine you have a CRM, right? Like, so we're sitting there trying to find a way in order to stay in front of our clients. So imagine, instead of having a bunch of canned emails. So right now, the way most CRMs work is you plug them in, you put them on a drip campaign, and it just sends them an email every month. And imagine, instead of having something like that, it can have an individual conversation with every single person in your database. And if the person replies back, it will know what that reply was, and it can answer that back with a useful and knowledgeable information, or a knowledgeable reply, instead of just having another canned answer that then is shot back to them. The other thing that I think could be really cool with this, and I haven't seen it come out yet, but I'm sure it will, is if it can read tone of voice or tonality inside of speech. Imagine if it could go through all of your interactions with your clients and saying, based on the interactions, based on the words they're using, based on the things they're saying, here is the 10% of your database that is most likely to do something this year. So go talk to them, reach out to them, get face to face with them. This group in the middle, the other, let's say 50 or 60%, we will continue to stay in touch with. Oh, and this 30 and 40% down here that we'll stay in touch with, but based on everything we're seeing, they're most likely not going to do anything inside of the next 12 to 18 months. So stay in touch, but don't worry about them yet. And it could just have all those conversations. It's a very interesting model of, once again, being scalable and keeping you in front of the right people. And chat and basically language models are going to be able to help with that. Another one that just came out, this came out about a month ago, maybe. So I don't know how many of you use RPR, but if you do use RPR, you can go through and say, like, okay, I want to create a market trends report for whatever, Beaverton, 97209, 97034. Pick your place where you want to be. 97223. So it'll print up your market report, and then you can come in here, and it's basically created a portal into ChatGPT to where you can say, okay, in a professional tone, marketing towards sellers, create me a video script around these marketing trends, or analyze these metrics, or give me a social campaign. So what you can see here on the screen is it will basically create a script that can go to, it'll be professional, engaging, conversational. It can be buyers, it can be sellers, or buyers and sellers. And then it will create any of those three campaigns all within just a couple of clicks. So it takes you 5 seconds to be like, all right, I want to be engaging to sellers, and I want to be a social campaign. And it will spit that out for you. So these are the types of things that I think are going to be more relevant in your world. So to answer your question on this, so Lisa, it is, if you go in and create a market trends report, when it spits it out and you actually see the market trends report that's behind this, and it's RPR, so NAR RPR, and it's a little bit hard to see on the screen because it's a screenshot. But if you look just to the right of where it says analyze metrics, right there in the middle, right next to where it's between share and analyze metrics, right there, there's a little button that says create script, and you can only see the thing that says a script, but that's where you find it. So if you're in RPR and it's a market trends report, you say create script, and it will come up with this little window for you. And if you need help with that, we can do a quick little video, or shoot that over to you also. I know Michael can get that for you. But yeah, this is already built into RPR right now. So these little kind of add-ons or portals or powered by is where I think ChatGPT is going to have a ton of impact on the things that we do. Which includes, I don't know how many of you are Canva users, but Canva is actually launching a whole new version. They've already had some AI built in, but Magic is what they're getting ready to launch. Actually, it's either tomorrow. What's today's the 3rd? So yeah, tomorrow they're going to be launching this, which is going to be super, super cool. When I've seen little like bits and pieces of it, but I can't wait to play with it tomorrow. Because if you're a Canva user, you already know how easy it is. Imagine being able to click into AI and say, create an open house card for me that is, compelling with this. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath house in Beaverton, and find the imagery that makes it even more beautiful for Instagram. And then boom, it'll all pop up there. At least that's how I envision it. And so I am super excited to see what Canva is doing. This literally launches tomorrow. So if you go to canva.com/magic, then that is going to be on there. So I've not even had, I don't have a insight into the back end yet. So I'm just excited to see what happens with that tomorrow. And I do think that's something that's going to be super useful for a lot of you if you're Canva users already. Um, Another program that I really, really like is one called Jasper. And so Jasper is kind of ChatGPT on steroids. It is a little more expensive. It's like $50 a month, but you can go in, and so the WFG Client Advantage is something that we build out internally every month. And I will say it's something that can't be created by AI because it has to be real time. You know, I've actually tried a lot to get it to hone in using AI, and it just doesn't really work. Um, but what I can do is I can grab a document like our October Client Advantage, which is meant for you as agents to go through, have something that's either a video script, a blog post, or an email built out every month to send to your database. It's basically pre-built content that you can copy, send, and or copy, paste, and send. But I can throw it into here and say, oh, here's the document. There's the content that I've built out. Create an Instagram caption, a Facebook image, a Google text ad, a nurture email, whatever that may be. You just select all of the different places you want to put this information, say generate content, and then when I go to the next page, you'll see, like, here's, for example, the Instagram caption. It grabbed the information that I built out this month. Here's the caption. Notice that it even throws in all of the different emojis. And it's just a very simple way to have all of this stuff at least mostly built out. And then at this point, this is an editor. So if there's anything I want to change to make it sound more like me, if I want to change, the keywords, or I want to change the hashtags or something, I can do that. But it's all built out immediately, and it can literally be that all of those different places. You could have it in like 10 different formats, all based on the same article inside of just a couple of minutes. And so Jasper is one of those ones that I look at and I'm like, okay, this one makes my life a lot easier. And once again, it will get me 80% there, maybe 90% there. And it's so much easier to edit than it is to create basically any kind of content. So if all you have to do is go through and then rewrite or rebuild out or edit to kind of make it sound more like you, it's going to be a lot quicker than sitting there with either a blank page on your screen or a blank page sitting on your desk. So in summary, I know I whipped through a lot of things. We are running out of time. You know, there are so many ways that this can be used. It can be used to, help you with your listings. If you look at the tone of voice at the top, do we want to be professional? Do we want to be sincere? Do we want to be engaging? Do we want to be experienced? Do we want to be luxury? Do we want it to be exclusive or prestigious? Like, how do we want this thing to come out? But it can help write listing presentations. It can help write your listing descriptions. It can give you scripts to go around your listing. In your marketing, it can be used to like write all the content for your website. It can refresh your bios. It can build out, scripts for you to then read for a video or to send out via email. I mean, all of these different ways to use ChatGPT or to use AI in general are actually pretty quick and pretty simple. The key is just playing with it for a little bit. I do see slides. Yeah, no problem. I will go ahead and upload these slides and I'll get them over to you. And so if you want to go through and dive in a little deeper, I would encourage you to reach out to Michael. This is something where we can help you out with this, but there are literally hundreds and hundreds of applications. If you're talking about just dipping your toe in the water, I would try out the RPR portion. Just jump in there and use it real quick, or get on ChatGPT and say, write a listing description for, and then give it the information on one of your listings and sees what it comes up with. I do want to mention that there are so many other programs outside of just ChatGPT. So you have some that are for copywriting. You have some that'll build out presentations. You have some that will help you with sales. There's ad creation, logo creation, art. So I know I'm whipping through these because we're getting close to the end. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to find a piece of AI that will basically do anything, and this number is way bigger now, it's up to like 5,000 already. go to Futurepedia and say, I need an image editor. And if you type that in, it will go through and it will find you all of the different AI tools that are indexed with it. It will say, here's all the image editing AI tools, and it will even give you ratings. So what I always do if I'm trying to play with one is I will see, okay, this one has 5 or 6 ratings that are, all 5 stars. I'll play with that one. If it's like 0 people, I'm assuming it's new and probably isn't the best on market at that point in time. But Futurepedia is how you can go find exactly what's being built out inside of AI. So I know that was a ton. I know that was very quick, and we only have like 2 minutes left. But if anybody does have any other questions, please by all means do ask, and I am happy to answer them for you. All right, I'm not seeing anything come through in the chat. So once again, thank you so much for all of your time on this. If you do have any questions or want to dive in a little deeper, get in touch with Michael. Michael will be able to, help out. I'm always happy to help as well, and I can come in, with you, or even if you wanted to do a workshop or something where we kind of dive into prompting and some of these tools in order to give you a real hands-on kind of application for it. It's something we're always playing with, and it really is fun, and it should make your life easier, definitely not harder. So thank you very much. I hope everyone has a fantastic day.
Great. Thank you very much, Aaron. And just as a reminder, we've had some great success helping agents grow their business in this market by increasing their listings or getting buyers. So if you're interested in some of the tools that we have available, please reach out to me. I'd love to share that information with you. So have a great day, and we look forward to talking to you later.